Hey everyone, welcome to Youth Bombs. I'm Craig,
I'm David.
I'm Carson.
and we're the voice of young conservatives in Alachua County. Looking at election predictions this time. Carson, what do you have for us?
Well, as the polling nerd I am, I have a list from most likely to least likely to go to Trump. The start of the list is Arizona. I'll just make this really quick. Arizona is a border state. The Trump campaign has hammered home a message on immigration that I think is winning in Arizona. The wild card in Arizona is McCain Republicans, but overall, I think this is going to be easily Trump's easiest state, as well as it is the one that he has polled best in this entire cycle.
Okay, understandable. I see that, and I think it could be one of his top states as well. David?
Yeah, especially with voters personally feeling the effects of what illegal immigration has done to them. I think they're definitely ready and willing to have some change under Trump.
Absolutely. Now, what's the next state for us?
I would say Nevada. Nevada is a state that each cycle has shifted right, even relative to the nation. Nevada consistently, it went to Biden by 2 points. If you see 1 point of national rightward shift and then 1 point of shift statewide, which is totally not infeasible, it would easily go to Trump.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I think the numbers work there. Like if you get a little bit of a national shift plus that extra shift in Nevada, then yeah, that makes sense, and that makes up for the 2020 margin.
And then also, Nevada is border adjacent. It's not technically on the southern border, but it's close to it. And so I think that'll also help.
And I can imagine the no tax on tips thing also helped and went a long way there. And it also has a high Latino population. We can see that in this election, a lot of Latinos are really showing out for Trump.
Absolutely. He's made strong gains with Latinos, and I think that'll help him in Nevada.
So my next state is North Carolina. I think that while I'm not so certain about this one for Trump, mainly because of Mark Robinson. Now, polls consistently show that Mark Robinson is lower than Josh Stein by 10 points at minimum. I'm not sure about him actually losing by 10 points, but more importantly, I don't see there being 10% to as high as 20% of people ticket splitting, voting Trump Stein, although maybe it could happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of Trump voters might just end up leaving the governor's race blank.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that people would mainly show up just for the presidential election when it comes to that election.
I do think overall, if a state is going to swap from its 2020 position, it's going to be North Carolina. From Republican to Democrat. But I'm not sure about either candidate. Although the early voting numbers do look good for Republicans, I don't want to draw any conclusions from that data. But yeah, I would say overall, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely more on the Trump side than the Harris side right now.
Okay, makes sense. What's next?
Next, I would say Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a 0.68 margin. It was of the blue wall states, it was the one that voted the most conservatively. This one, Trump could very easily knock down. But the one wild card here is you really can't look at the early vote data because there's a lot of independent voters in Wisconsin that do usually vote for Democrats and are not really independents. So early vote data is kind of unreliable. For polling, in 2020, this one was consistently polled as like one of the most left-leaning ones. There was a election week, infamously, there was a Biden plus 17 poll in Wisconsin. Obviously, he won by less than a percentage point. So I don't believe that this one's actually going to be the most left-wing one, especially because this one also has less of it has a high working white working class population that Trump usually does well with. So if there's high turnout in Wisconsin, that would be a good sign for Trump.
Yeah, and if, say, for example, the electorate shifts 1 point right and Biden, say, got Wisconsin by, what, 0.2%?
0.68%.
0.68. Okay, so then that could definitely shift into the Trump column with a 1 point shift to the right.
Yeah, and I know President Trump was definitely trying to break that blue wall by having his running mate be J.D. Vance, he was trying to appeal to the white working class, the people in that area. So maybe that could make an impact.
Absolutely. What do we have next?
Next up, I would say, is Pennsylvania. I know a lot of people would put Georgia here. I'm going to go Pennsylvania mainly because Pennsylvania is the toss-up state. Currently, I would say the early voting metrics do look good for Harris. Although I will also say in ancestral Democratic states, you're going to have high early voting among Democrats, right? This is kind of a general pattern, is that ancestral Republican states in this cycle, which are swing states, are Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. Ancestral Democratic states are Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And so those states, generally speaking, if there's high turnout, it's going to benefit the opposition party. So, and obviously in Pennsylvania, the ancestral party is the Democrats, and so there being a high turnout, or sorry, there being the firewall isn't really. There's not really much you can take from that.
Interesting. Now, I would disagree on the early voting looking good for Harris, given that the low propensity Republicans are turning out in stronger numbers than 2020, and the Democrat, what's considered a firewall, is about 400,000 this year, whereas in 2020 it was 1.1 million. But I also won't say Trump is guaranteed to win Pennsylvania.
And Pennsylvania really is the key state, I think, overall. If this firewall is right, and Democrats are right that they need a 400,000 vote firewall, they've hit it. But some people would dispute it and put the number as high as 550,000. Early voting is, I believe, done. They're not going to hit that. And so overall, Pennsylvania, toss up. Last two are Georgia and Michigan. I'll just make this quick. Michigan voted for Biden by 3 points. Even though there have been some losses in the Arab American community due to the war in Gaza, I do think it's still going to. I don't think it's going to shift rightward. I don't think any of these swing states are going to shift rightward or leftward 3 points. And Georgia has shifted leftward relative to the nation every single cycle, and it has record high turnout as an ancestral Republican state. That's good for Democrats. So overall, I would say Georgia looks promising for Democrats as well as Michigan. Those are the two I'm most confident in for Harris.
Interesting. David, what do you think?
I think that it's kind of big that the Michigan mayor, which was the mayor of the most Muslim-populated city in all of Michigan, went out to endorse for President Trump. I think that it's a fact that Michigan has a high Muslim population, a high Arab American population. A lot of people are dissatisfied with the way that Kamala is handling the situation right now, and they want peace. And President Trump, being a person with a more isolationist foreign policy, is someone that I think that the Arab American community could get behind.
Right. If there are defections from the Arab American community from the Democrats to not voting or to Trump, that could work in Trump's favor. Is it going to be enough to sway the state? I don't know. Leaning no on that. Georgia, though, interesting that in the sense it does move left, but at the same time, we're seeing a wider electorate than 2020. So that could work to President Trump's favor.
Yeah. I mean, overall, we can't know until election night, but I would say that I'm definitely leaning towards, because of the record high turnout and also because more Republicans are definitely voting early this election, I'm definitely leaning toward Harris in that state.
Makes sense. Okay. And last point would be the Seltzer poll.
Yeah, so there was a Seltzer poll in Iowa. Just really quickly, the Ann Seltzer poll is a gold standard. They almost always nail the election. They had it Harris up 3. I don't know if I believe that, mainly because of Washington primary data, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. But if Iowa is going to Harris by 3, I don't think at that point you already have a landslide. And I'm just not sure if I even believe that. How are you seriously going to go from R+8 to D+3 in one cycle? That's absurd to me.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And Emerson put out a contrasting poll with Trump about +10. So definitely a strong contrast there. The recall on the Seltzer poll for the 2020 vote was Biden +5. And I think strong leads for Harris with seniors and higher leads with women than expected. So definitely one of those is going to be an outlier. We're either going to have a Harris win, like Seltzer says, or a standard Trump win, like Emerson says.
Yeah, and polling just takes into account such a small fraction of the population that of course you're gonna have the inconsistent polls every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, that being said, thanks everyone so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to reach out to us, please email us at youthbombs@electoralrepublicans.com. Thanks so much, everyone.